My mom accidentally slipped up. Now I know the real reason my dad left us. I spent most of my life thinking my dad was a deadbeat who just walked out on us. Turns out that was only half the story, and the other half was way messier. It's strange how a single moment can rewrite your entire history. One comment, barely audible over the sizzle of burgers on a grill, dismantled the narrative I'd built my life around. My mom raised me alone from age 7. The story was simple. Dad couldn't handle responsibility. He was immature, overwhelmed by fatherhood, and one day he just left.
No burning, no proper good beer.
Just gone. Mom always delivered this explanation with the same tired sigh, a practiced performance of disappointment and resilience. Some men just aren't cut out for family life, she'd say, squeezing my shoulder. But we're doing fine without him, aren't we? And we were, I suppose. Mom worked 2 jobs for years to keep us afloat. Our apartment was small but clean, dinner was always on the table, and I never went without the essentials. What I lacked in paternal guidance, she tried to compensate for with fierce protectiveness. When Father's Day projects came around at school, she'd help me make cards for my uncle instead. When I asked why Dad never called, she'd purse her lips and say, "He has his own life now. It's better this way." I believed her because children believe their parents. I believed her through elementary school, through my awkward teenage years when I desperately needed a man to talk to, through college applications when I had to leave the father's information section blank. I believed her until 3 weeks ago, when everything unraveled over paper plates and cheap beer. It was Memorial Day weekend. Mom's side of the family had gathered in my Aunt Carol's backyard, the annual tradition marking the unofficial start of summer. Nothing special about this year, just the usual suspects. Cousins I barely knew, uncles arguing about politics, the women clustered around the picnic table sharing gossip. I was nursing a beer, half listening to my cousin's boyfriend drone on about cryptocurrency, when I caught a fragment of conversation from where Mom and Aunt Carol sat. "God, remember those summers at the lake house?" Carol said, refilling Mom's wine glass. "Before all the kids and divorces and mortgages." Mom laughed, that loose, uninhibited laugh that only emerged after her second glass. "Different lifetime," she said, waving her hand dismissively. Then, quieter but still audible, "Well, if I hadn't gotten caught with Mark, maybe things would have worked out differently." The words hit me like cold water. Mark? Who the hell was Mark? In 18 years of explanations about why my father left, no Mark had ever entered the narrative. I excused myself from the crypto lecture and wandered over to the cooler, positioning myself within earshot of their conversation. But they'd already moved on to discussing Carol's daughter's college prospects. The moment had passed, but the question lodged itself in my mind, a splinter I couldn't ignore. Later that night, as Mom fumbled with her keys outside our apartment, I asked casually, "Who's Mark?" She froze for just a second before continuing to unlock the door. "Mark who, honey?" "The Mark you mentioned at the barbecue, when you were talking to Aunt Carol about why things didn't work out with Dad." Inside now, she tossed her purse on the counter with practiced nonchalance. "Oh, that. It was nothing, just old history. Adult stuff. Complicated." "What was complicated about it?" She sighed, kicked off her sandals. "Ryan, it was nearly 20 years ago. What's the point of digging all that up now? I'm just curious." "Well, don't be." Her tone sharpened. "Your father left because he left. Because he couldn't handle responsibility. End of story." But it wasn't the end. That night, lying awake in my childhood bedroom, now my apartment's spare room that I used when visiting Mom, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd spent my life accepting a carefully constructed fiction. Who was I to judge her for simplifying a messy situation for a 7-year-old? But I wasn't 7 anymore. I was 25 with a right to know the truth about my own family. The next morning, I called in sick to work and waited for Mom to leave for her shift at the medical office where she worked as a receptionist. Then I started looking. I had no real plan, just an urgent need to find something. Anything that might explain who Mark was and what he had to do with my father's departure. I started with the most obvious places. Her bedroom dresser drawers, the filing cabinet in the den, the box of photo albums in the hall closet. Nothing particularly revealing, just the familiar artifacts of our life together. School reports, utility bills, holiday snapshots with me gap-toothed and grinning. My father appeared in the earliest photos, always standing slightly apart, as if he knew even then that he was a temporary fixture in the frame. It was only when I ventured into the rarely accessed attic that I found something. Behind Christmas decorations and boxes of outgrown clothes was a small lockbox. The key wasn't hard to find. Mom had always kept spare keys in an envelope taped under her dresser drawer. Old habits die hard. Inside the box, a bundle of letters tied with a faded ribbon, a man's wedding band, and a sealed envelope with my name written on it in unfamiliar handwriting. My hands trembled as I broke the seal. The letter inside was dated June 12, 1999, 2 weeks before my father left. Ryan, if you're reading this, it means you're old enough to understand things I couldn't explain when you were little. Your mother and I agreed it would be better for you not to know the whole story until you were grown. Maybe she's the one who gave you this letter. Maybe you found it on your own. I want you to know that leaving you was the hardest thing I've ever done. Not a day goes by that I don't think about you, wonder who you're becoming. But I couldn't stay in that house, pretending everything was normal after what happened. The truth is, your mother had an affair with my best friend, Mark. Someone I trusted completely. Someone who stood beside me at our wedding. I found out when I came home early from a business trip and found them together. The betrayal wasn't just that she cheated, it was that she chose him, of all people. We tried counseling. I wanted to make it work for your sake. But every time I looked at her, all I could see was that moment. The lies. How long it had been going on while I suspected nothing. I couldn't live with that poison in me. Couldn't raise you in a home built on lies and betrayal. I wanted to take you with me, but the lawyers said I didn't have much chance of winning custody. Your mother fought hard to keep you. Maybe that was her way of making amends. Maybe she just couldn't stand to lose you both. I'm not writing this to turn you against her. She's your mother, and I know she loves you. I'm writing because you deserve the truth, and because I want you to know I didn't abandon you by choice. The child support payments, the birthday cards, the visits I requested. I tried to stay in your life, but after a while, it seemed like my presence was just making things harder for everyone. If you want to find me when you're older, I've left contact information with your Aunt Carol. Until then, be good. Be honest. Be better than both of us. Love always, Dad. I read the letter 3 times before folding it carefully and returning it to the envelope. My mind raced with questions. Birthday cards? Visits? Child support? None of these things had ever reached me. The narrative of my life, the story of the father who couldn't be bothered, crumbled under the weight of this new information. I took the letter and drove straight to Aunt Carol's house. She answered the door in gardening gloves, surprise registering on her face. Ryan, what are you doing here on a Tuesday? I held up the letter. I need to know if this is true. Her expression softened as she recognized what I was holding. She removed her gloves, invited me inside, and poured us both iced tea before sitting across from me at her kitchen table. I wondered when this day would come, she said quietly. So you knew? All this time? She nodded. Your mother made us promise not to tell you. She thought it would be easier for you to hate him than to know what really happened. Did he really try to see me? Send cards. Carol stared into her glass. At first, yes. The divorce was ugly. Your mother was heartbroken, humiliated, angry. She returned his letters unopened. When he tried to arrange visitation through her, she made it difficult. Eventually, he took her to court, but by then what? By then she told you he abandoned you, and you were already having nightmares acting out at school. His lawyer advised that forcing visitation might traumatize you further. So he backed off. Decided to wait until you were older. And you had his contact information this whole time? She nodded again, then stood and went to a drawer in her desk. She returned with a business card, slightly yellowed with age. He updates me every few years when something changes. Last I heard, he was still at this email address. I took the card, staring at the name printed there. Michael Pearson. Not dad or father, but a real person with a real name, a job title, a life that had continued parallel to mine all these years. Does Mom know you're giving me this? Carol's expression hardened slightly. Your mother made her choices. You're an adult now. You get to make yours. The confrontation with Mom happened that evening. I waited in her living room, the letter and business card on the coffee table in front of me. When she walked in and saw my face, she knew immediately that something had shifted. You went looking, not a question. She dropped her purse and sank into the armchair opposite me. I found Dad's letter, the one explaining why he really left. She closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, she looked older somehow, the carefully maintained facade cracking. I never wanted you to find out that way. Did you ever plan for me to find out at all? Her silence was answer enough. Was it true? Did you cheat on him with his best friend? She flinched at the bluntness of the question. It was one time, a stupid mistake. I was unhappy, feeling trapped. Mark was there, understanding. It never should have happened. And Dad tried to stay in my life? The cards, the visits, the child support. What happened to all that? The support payments went into your college fund, she said defensively. Every penny. And the rest. She looked away. I was protecting you. From what? Having a father. From knowing your mother was the villain of the story. Her voice cracked. From having to choose sides. From the whispers at school when everyone found out what I'd done. So instead you let me think he didn't care about me? Do you have any idea what that did to me? How many times I wondered what was wrong with me that my own father didn't want me. Tears spilled down her cheeks now.
I'm sorry.
I never meant. It just seemed easier at the time. And then the lie was too big to take back. 18 years, Mom. 18 years of believing something that wasn't true. He could have tried harder, she said, a flash of the old defensiveness returning. If he really wanted to be in your life, he would have fought harder. He did fight. Aunt Carol told me everything. The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, she whispered, "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to email him." She nodded slowly, resigned. And then, I don't know. I wrote the email that night, deleted it, wrote it again. How do you start a conversation with someone who's been a ghost for most of your life? Eventually, I settled on simplicity. I found your letter. I'd like to meet, if you're willing. His response came the next morning. I've been waiting for this email for a long time. Just tell me when and where. We met at a coffee shop downtown, neutral territory. I spotted him immediately. The man from the photographs, only with gray at his temples now, lines around his eyes. He stood when he saw me, an uncertain smile on his face. I recognized my own nose, my own hands. "Ryan," he said, and just the sound of my name in his voice unlocked something in me. A combination of anger and longing so intense I had to grip the edge of the table. "I don't know what to call you," I admitted. "Michael is fine. Or Dad. Whatever feels right." Nothing felt right. We ordered coffee and sat across from each other. Strangers connected by blood and separated by lies. "I tried to find you," he said finally. "For years, I tried." "I know. I found the letter. Talked to Aunt Carol." He nodded. "Your mother was very determined to cut me out." "Why did you let her?" He sighed, rubbing his face with one hand. "The lawyers said fighting would just traumatize you more." And then years passed and I thought, maybe it was too late. Maybe you were better off without the disruption. "That wasn't your choice to make." "No," he agreed quietly. "It wasn't."
I'm sorry.
We talked for 3 hours. About his life after he left. A new city, eventually a new wife, 2 half-siblings I'd never met. About my childhood, my college years, my job. Careful, polite exchanges that couldn't possibly bridge the chasm between us. But it was a start. When I got home that night, Mom was waiting up, pretending to watch TV. Her eyes searched my face for clues. "How was it?" she asked. "Weird."
Sad.
"I don't know. Are you going to see him again?" I nodded. "He wants me to meet his family." She absorbed this with a small nod of her own. I understand if you hate me. I don't hate you, I said, and meant it. But I don't know if I can forgive you yet either. It's been 3 weeks since that first meeting with my father. We're taking it slow, feeling our way towards something that might eventually resemble a relationship. My half-siblings are curious about me, their mysterious older brother who appeared out of nowhere. My stepmother is gracious but cautious, watching to see if I'm here to disrupt the life they've built. As for Mom, things are complicated. The fairy tale of our resilient little two-person family has been exposed as something more complex and flawed. I'm staying with a friend for now, needing space to process everything. She calls daily, her voice small and uncertain. Sometimes I answer, sometimes I don't. Turns out the truth doesn't set you free. It just gives you more questions than you had before. Questions about the nature of betrayal, about whether some lies can be acts of love, about how much of my identity was built on a foundation that never really existed. I don't have the answers yet, but at least now I'm asking the right questions.